Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Chasing Sound Live. It is March 12th today, 2022. Happy to be here. Happy to do another live stream. Have a lot of cool stuff to talk about today. I got some feedback from the crew in our Discord. If you haven't signed up for our Discord yet, definitely go do that. It's a lot of fun. We got a lot of cool guitar players in there, a lot of great guys talking about all sorts of stuff from gear to music we like, all sorts of things each and every day. Still shaking the show up here, in the new year, trying to do different things. Sometimes we'll do lessons, sometimes we'll do links, sometimes we'll do just rants. That's actually what today's live stream is all about. I got a couple links that I want to share with you from last week's newsletter and also a couple from tomorrow's newsletter. But the main two topics that we're going to be talking about, one here at the top and then one at the end, is purchasing gear and how you can get your favorite guitar player's tone. Number one, we're going to be kicking the show off with that. And towards the end, I'm going to talk a little bit about learning songs by ear, really like what it takes, what you should be focusing on, what really works on that. And just at the top here, just wanted to let you guys know, if you're not signed up for Six String Sunday yet, it's on Substack. Go check it out. It is my newsletter that I've been putting out for years and years and years now that you can check out. It's chasingsound.com. You can find the link to sign up there right on the sidebar. Go check that out. I'm doing a paid option of the newsletter as well. The newsletter that goes out every Sunday is free. But I'm also doing a paid version of the newsletter that includes extra stuff, extra perks. And the first thing went out, which is my first subs-only email that talks about all the different things that I've learned from various guitarists, whether that be me looking at beginners when I'm teaching them, or me asking, some guitar players that I've taken lessons from, guys like Dave Weiner from Steve Vai's band, guys like Ben Eller, who's here on YouTube, that I really, really love took a lesson from. I took a lesson from Mick Rockland, just a bunch of different people, and it's been a lot of fun. So I kind of captured a lot of my thoughts today and sent that email out. If you want it, subscribe. It's only $5 a month, and it's actually even cheaper if you subscribe annually. I'm never really one to push too much about paid things for Chasing Sound, but I really, really feel like it's a cool email that'll be at least going out once a month, and I'm going to keep on trying to add more and more stuff to make that $5 even more worth it. Even if you don't care about any of that stuff, it would be really awesome. I mean, literally, it's the price of a nice fancy coffee a month. I know that's a very cliche thing to say. That's what everyone says, right? But it does cost money to make the newsletter and to do all this other stuff for the website. So if you want to support what I do, I would really appreciate it if you sign up. And even if you don't have the $5 a month, totally cool. Sign up for the free version and just enjoy the weekly curation of all the different guitar stories that I'm finding in the world. So new lessons, new lesson videos, rig rundowns, all that stuff. It comes to you every Sunday in your inbox, and that's something I'm really proud of. Hey, we got somebody actually from the Discord right here, right now. Rise, how's it going? Glad that you could join. Actually, we're going to be talking about how to learn a song by ear a little bit later on. That was something that he suggested, and we're going to go over that. But the first thing I wanted to talk about was picking out gear. I actually did a recent lesson with one of my students where we talked about how to like look at his pedal board, and based on the guitar players he liked, what we were going to go into. Were we going to try to add pedals, take away pedals, set the pedals up in a different type of setting? Is the signal chain right? That's all things that need to be taken into account when you're building a board, right? So we sat down for about like a half an hour or so, maybe a little bit longer, and I just took a look at his board and kind of recommended some of my favorite settings for the pedals, and then one or two pedals that he was missing to kind of round out the rig. He was looking to do a lot more rock and like blues rock stuff, and a lot of the pedals that he had on there, stuff like tube screamers, a fuzz, a wah, were ready perfect for the style that he's going for. So yeah, so it was a lot of fun talking to him, and I thought, hey, why don't I talk about pedals and gear here? Actually, one of the things that I shared with him was this site, which is a Quipboard. Has been around for a really long time, and if you haven't checked it out yet, I suggest that you do. It's not only for guitar players; it's also for people that are drummers or other artists, even keyboard players, rappers that want to know what gear their favorite musician is using. And I think this is really, really, really cool. So you can see there's some trending guitarists here, some top guitarists. As you can imagine, you got Hendrix / Jimmy Page. One of my favorite guys was a guitar player from Incubus. So if I search for him here, let's see, maybe it's just Mike, not Michael. But if I search for him right here, you can see that it is laid out by all the stuff in the rig, what type of guitars they use, what type of amplifiers, what type of effects. So if we go all the way to effects, you can see what stuff they're actually getting into, which is, I mean, to me, it's super, super helpful. It's stuff like the Eventide. He has a really old Dan Electro tape echo. The Boss DS1, probably the most famous pedal of all time, a Phase 90. And I think this is a really good way to start kind of getting into knowing what your favorite guitar player uses. Just heading there and understanding, what stuff they use, what amps they use, what guitars, what effects pedals. Rise is saying he did a gig last year and the pedal wires were all in the wrong places. Took a solid 15 minutes to sort out. I've seen that before, and I've been there before, unfortunately, and it's a little rough, but that's why it calls for clean cables. Try to have everything in the right place in your pedal board. It's rough, especially if you're just ready to go on stage and play a gig. It's never fun, but yeah, go check out a Quipboard. Really, really cool site. Has always helped me figure out what I want to get into. And after that, like for instance, Mike Einziger has that DS1 or that Phase 90. Then I'm going to do the research. Of course, we're not going to sound exactly like these guitar players, but this is a good place to start out. And the next thing I would do is I would start seeking out gear reviews of the pedal. And I mean, they're all over the place, right? You can find gear reviews of nearly any pedal today. And it was, it's super, super easy to find guys like Pete Thorne, RJ Ronquillo, all these people, Philip McKnight, all these people do gear reviews constantly. There's always videos of these pedals to find. So go check that stuff out if it's a pedal, or if it's a guitar or an amp, and you can, really get a good idea of what these things sound like. But even if it's something like that MXR phaser, don't just stop there. Maybe you want to try something different. Maybe you want to try the Boss phaser. Maybe you want to try something from MXR, it doesn't have to be just, exactly what your favorite guitar hero uses. Another thing we talked about on the lesson is that it's different for each guitar. So, for instance, if you have a Strat or you have a guitar with humbuckers, maybe like Les Paul, you're obviously going to have different sounds with both guitars. They're going to sound different between single coils and humbuckers. So you're going to try to get a happy medium, especially if you're playing a couple different guitars live, to make sure that you're happy with, your sound. And when it comes to that, I think the biggest thing to do is to make sure that you're happy with how your guitar sounds into your amp without any effects, and then start to add the effects after the fact. If you're not happy with how your guitar sounds straight into the amp, you're not going to be happy in general. Another thing we brought up was pedals versus modeler. Right now I'm using the Fractal. The Fractal's about like $1,000 unit for the FM3. I find it really awesome and inspiring to use because it has all the pedals, all the amps, all the cabs I could ever want. It sounds really good. And when you consider, buying all those pedals via, versus just having the modeler in a compact format, it depends. It depends on what you really want to use. I have Arise saying that he's taking two guitars to his gig in July. One has humbuckers, one has single coils. Yeah, the biggest thing for that is just to make sure that you're happy with something in the middle ground. Before your gig, plug into your amp with the humbucker and plug into your amp with the single coils. Sometimes when you take too much bass off your amp, when you're playing with the humbuckers, when you plug that Strat in, if you're using the bridge pickup, it's going to sound very, very very, very weak, maybe. So I would check that out. And I think it's important to, once you have this gear, like once you have the pedals themselves, is to really like learn the ins and outs of the pedal. So most of these pedals will come with a manual, but there's a lot of ways to download a digital manual for this stuff, just to try to understand what all the things do. And maybe see like what your favorite guitar player's settings are. Now they're not going to work for everybody, but I think that's really important. Another thing that I do quite often, especially if I'm using single pedals, and I think this is really important, is if you're using single pedals and you love a tone, especially if you're doing recording, what I would do is I would make sure to either write down the preset, write down the settings, or I would take a picture of the settings to see, if something that you want to keep in place and you want to return to, especially if you're doing a recording gig, you're going to want to remember those settings so that you don't. So this sounds seamless between gigs. And then just somebody asked me in our chat, what's your take on why you would buy a guitar? Like I recently bought the Silver Sky SE. What's your take on buying a guitar in that price range rather than something like a $5,000 guitar? And the same thing goes for pedals, right? I think that's important to think about. I have guitars that are more expensive than the SE, and I just like them because some of them are signatures that I really wanted to get the tone of that guitar player. For instance, I have like the ESP KH2, the Kirk Hammett signature. And man, every time I play that, it sounds very similar tone-wise. If I play that into a Mesa Boogie or a Mesa Boogie modeler, it sounds very similar to Kirk Hammett. For that guitar, it cost a couple $1,000s. It was worth it to me. It's a guitar I've used for probably like 20 years at this point. What do you do? How do you go about picking gear based on the price and then based on what you have? For me, I went to the store. I was able to try that SE against the American model, and you always got to say, is this making? I think that model, the standard versions, maybe, let's say it's $2,500. Does it make a $1,500 difference? If it doesn't, I felt totally okay going with the SE. Sub brands of guitars right now are so good that I feel like there's nothing to be ashamed of there. Even if it is, even if it is something like from a different place, like a Fender Mexican made in Mexico guitar. Those guitars are fantastic. My Telecasters are from there, and I feel they're incredible. So yeah, don't be afraid about what's on the headstock. Does it feel good to you? Does it sound good to you? That's number one in regards to price. Now, do I want another PRS that costs maybe into the thousands? Yes, I do. I'll get there eventually, but for right now, it's not in my price range with so many things going on, right? But with that being said, there are so many good guitars in the $1,000 range right now that you can get that are worth it. So, if you have around $1,000, even like starting at like $600, I'd say there's a lot of good guitars that'll give you a lot of mileage right at this point. And on top of that, in addition to like, the money side of it, it's really thinking about what do you need in your arsenal, right? So, there's so many videos about this on YouTube, but what I would say is, you need a good Strat, you need a good Tele, and you need a good guitar like a Les Paul with humbuckers, or some guitar with humbuckers in general. And that's what I have right now. And, it's rare that I purchase a new guitar. I don't try to overcrowd my house with guitars because, number one, they cost a lot of money. But number two, I like to get really good at using what I already have. So, The Tele and the Strat can do a number of tones. My orange Charvel with humbuckers can do a number of tones. Even the Kirk Hammett can do metal to jazz. I'm happy with that. That's also why I liked the FM3. I like this Guitarsenal. I don't know if that's a British thing, Rise. I don't know if that's like Arsenal, the football team, or not too. But I like that word, man. That's like a pretty good guitar solo album name. That's very cool. I dig that. But yeah, go check out Equipboard. See what your favorite guitar players are using. Consider what you need in your setup. Like, what do you need for songwriting next? What do you need for live gigs? Like what's your band that you really like, and what's the band that you're part of that might require a different tone? Maybe you need like an ES style guitar or an SG. Maybe you're not a Strat style band. If you're in a country band and you don't have a Tele, I don't know. That seems kind of crazy to me. But then you have other guys like Julian Lage, who's playing a Tele in jazz. How cool is that, right? So don't be afraid to break outside the norm too. And that's kind of it. You don't gotta break the bank with some of this stuff. Go to places like Reverb, and I think Equipboard actually has links to Reverb. Go to places like Reverb and just see see what people have for sale, and keep an eye on it, and then like set notifications for yourself when the price actually drops, because there's so many good deals that you can get out there. Guitars, pedals, amps, all that stuff. Even more so sometimes if you're local to pick it up. But, even if you have to ship it, there's great deals on Reverb right now and eBay and all that stuff. And that's kind of my whole take on gear. If you're looking to find something to act like your favorite guitar player, take a look at what your favorite guitar player is using on Equipboard. Go there, learn the ins and outs, and then try to shake it up to make it your own. If John Mayer is using a Silver Sky, maybe you want to use a Strat with humbuckers instead, to be a little bit more diversified. Don't be afraid about changing it up. And price-wise, all that stuff. So if you have any questions on gear, feel free to join our Discord, or if you're in the comments later on checking out this video, pop them into the comments, and that'd be cool. I'll be happy to answer any of your gear questions, whether it's like, what guitar should I get for this? What pedals should I get if I'm looking to sound like Adam Jones or Jimi Hendrix, or, thankfully that information is really, really readily available right now. But if you need any advice, even on recording stuff, what mic should I pick to mic up my amp? The answer is a Sennheiser E609 or SM57. But yeah, just let me know. Feel free to hit me up in the comments. I wanted to talk a little bit about some stuff from Six String Sunday from last week that I found really, really helpful. So check this out. This is a video from Chris Sherland, one of my favorite teachers on YouTube. And here's another cool term. We're talking about guitarsenal. This is guitarcheology. I'm happy. Hey, I'm happy I was able to say that, because I didn't think I would be able to say it. But guitarcheology, and what does it mean? The cool thing is that, rather than like this video talks about, rather than trying to remember each and every single note on the neck, you should build on what you know. You should build on the things that you already know. Like, let's say the major scale. Let's say the pentatonic scale. The role of a guitarcheologist, so to speak, is to build upon that and like dig deeper to try to find scales within scales, and how you can modify one note or so to kind of get to where you need to go for the next scale. So my thing that I've been saying for so many years is that the major scale has always been my home base of operations. So, even if you just start from C major, how do I change? C major is a nice scale because there's no sharps and flats. How do you change, into the Mixolydian mode? How do you take notes away to get into C major pentatonic scale, right? Like, what 5 notes are that? So the guitarcheology mindset to me, after watching Chris's video, is just really understanding, building on the things you already know, building on stuff like, I know how to do a bar chord. What note do I, obviously, what note do I add to make a 7th chord, and how's the easiest way to finger that on the guitar? So go check this out, and go check out Chris's whole channel. He's such a cool dude. He has a really good Patreon right now as well, called The Studio. That's a lot of fun. Go check him out. Chris Sherland on YouTube. Speaking of which, another awesome guitar player on YouTube is Tim Pierce, session legend at this point, right? What I liked about this video is kind of in the same vein as Chris's, which he talks about. I think his original title for this was "Cage is good, but this is better." And the cool thing, why I recommend something like Scale Diagrams, the Scale Diagrams app for Mac, and I think it's for PC as well, is that he presents like a couple chord song here in this video, also playing a beautiful PRS. No birds on this one too, right? But he's playing a couple different chords, and the cool thing is that he's mapping them out. Now, the only thing that he's done is written the chord he's written the whole chord progression on a piece of paper. And some people won't need to do that, but other people will. What I would recommend is use scale diagrams to kind of map out all the different notes in the chords that you're playing. And he says what's better than Cage, rather than these bigger shapes, is he likes to play the triads, which I've been talking about for years, and I've been really brushing up on a lot in the last 2 years or so. Learning where all the triad shapes are across the neck, and then being able to instantly see where like the root, third, and fifth are in a chord is amazing, right? Because you always sound like you're hitting the right note. This was one of my favorite videos of last week, and if you haven't checked out Tim Pierce's videos, you owe it to yourself to go do that right now. He just came out with a new video today on Saturday, which was how his story about a while back now, I think it was last year, him recording 30 songs with Dylan live to tape, 4 people just in the room, and the fear that goes along with that of recording with such an epic guitar player. It was really, really cool. And if you are done with this video, the Cage video, go check that out. It's maybe like 13-14 minutes, and it was awesome. So Tim Pierce, very, very cool. A couple of quick things for tomorrow's newsletter. I'm a huge fan of Corey Wong, big fan of his podcast. He recently had John Mayer on. The two guys traded signature guitars, said what they liked about either one. John Mayer talked about getting, a one-of-a-kind signature just for Corey maybe, and then he has a bunch of one-of-a-kind guitars of the Silver Sky. So the cool thing about this is that they were talking about songwriting. They were talking about so many different things, and the conversation's good. I think it was about an hour and a half. I listened to it in the last couple of days. The coolest thing about this podcast, and I know there's only so many out there that exist like this, is that it seemed to me like John, understands that Corey is such a celebrated funk guitar player right now, and that he's a good musician. They were kind of on the same level, at least when they can talk, that John, to me, opened up more about music and songwriting to Corey than I think he would to other other interviewers that maybe aren't musicians. Go check out the podcast. It's free. You can find it anywhere in your favorite podcasting app. It is the latest of Corey Wong's very, very awesome podcast called Wong Notes. And then, when we were talking about gear before, let's talk about 2 different Fender articles that I found cool. Before we get into talking about how to learn songs by ear, let's talk about these 2 things. I'm going to have these in the newsletter tomorrow. Fender unveils the 2022 Custom Shop Master Built Prestige and Limited Edition Annual Collection models. So these are amazing because these are coming from the master builders of Fender, and they are one of a kind and they are very, very pricey, but they look very, very cool. So, for instance, this right here, the Greg Fessler Prestige Ghost Town Telecaster. Beautiful guitar, starts at 17,500. A lot of these guitars have videos. The cool thing about the videos is one of my favorite things is that it's so cool to see how all these different master builders build, when they have the ability to build guitars like this that are going to cost this price and they can kind of go to town on doing it, to see how they differ, right? Because this Greg Fessler's Telecaster is so different to me than this Dennis Galuska Prestige Moto Jazzmaster. Both beautiful guitars, right, in their own right, and definitely interesting. But you listen, I think I can say this right now. I don't know if I'll ever have money for a guitar like this, but it's very cool to check them out. Yeah, here's another video about this Jazzmaster. I mean, oh my God, the finish on this, the finish and the way the body looks on this is incredible. Here's another Prestige Jazzmaster from Todd Kraus. A little bit more bare bones in terms of the design, right? The Kyle McMillan Prestige Thin Line, another piece of wood that looks incredible. Prestige Quilted 60 Strat. Look at this Jason Smith. Jason Smith Prestige Electric Sea Gems Esquire. Very weird, but very cool. This one is the one that kind of caught my eye too, not for the look as much, but the Ron Thorne Prestige Hawaiian Dream Resonator. So like an electric resonator guitar, $36,000. I mean, I'm sure it's for somebody, for some collector, but I want to know who buys these guitars. Tell me in the comments who buys these guitars, because they are very cool. They're like art, and they are super collectible. But geez, we got a nice 1952 Precision Bass Peacock version. Paul Waller Prestige St. John's Skeleton Telly. Wow. I mean, these are just amazing to look at. Look at this awesome limited edition annual collection guitar. Really sick color, really cool weathering. I just love this stuff. I can look at these guitars all day. I know we got other stuff to talk about, but yeah, these guitars are cool. And speaking of cool guitars, before we get into the next topic, Fender also teamed up for 16 one-of-a-kind guitars, again, all one-of-a-kind, with Hot Wheels, the toy car manufacturer, to make the Prestige series. Go check out this video. I really liked seeing them talk about, how lucky they were to kind of team up with Hot Wheels. They already had, he was saying that the guitars kind of like build themselves because they already know what to go with based on how the cars look. Yeah, I mean, if you look at some of these Hot Wheels guitars, they're just awesome. I mean, they look so cool. And they said they start from 10,500 on the low end to 16,500 on the high end. And I mean, if you're like a fan of Brian Setzer or something like this, I know he doesn't play these guitars, but that whole vibe, I feel like a lot of these guitars are in that vibe. Hot Wheels, 16 guitars. Go check out the video. It's on Guitar World's site. So I always like to look at that stuff every once in a while. All right. So last thing I wanted to talk about today, because I know I've been ranting for, what is it now? Almost 32 minutes, is how to learn a song by ear, right? And just a couple different things that you might want to get into, starting from the beginning to some more advanced concepts. First and foremost, there is a very good Rick Beato, it's like 10-minute video on this exact topic. Kind of gets a tiny bit more into the weeds theory-wise, but these are all kind of concepts that you can kind of find anywhere, right? That from any teacher. But I just like the way Rick Beato teaches. I love his Beato book and all that stuff. He's a great YouTuber, great guitar player, engineer, all that. Excellent. So go check out his video. But let's start from the beginning, right? The first way to really learn a song by ear, and that is to make sure that the E and the A strings, the low E and the A string, are your best friend when it comes to learning the initial chords. Now, I'm not saying something like, Dream Theater or maybe some of the harder jazz songs where it's a little bit, the chords are moving by a little bit faster. Maybe you got some different inversions that you're not used to. I'm talking about like your rock songs, your blues songs, punk rock songs, any of that, easier music. But I'm just saying stuff that has not as many chords. When you're first getting started, I think, hey, there he is. Vic is there. Look at this. Hey, welcome to the chat, man. Glad to have you. He says maybe they put those $17,500 guitars there, so so the Murphy Relics doesn't look as bad. Man, what are the prices on those? I saw the Murphy, the different ages, the different aged, things from the Murphy lab. They look really beautiful, but couldn't be me, right? As we say, couldn't be me spending those prices. But yeah, learning songs by ear, and Vic is one of my students. Thanks for stopping in, man. That's really cool. I started the whole live stream talking about one of our lessons about how to choose gear and pedal boards. So you were the inspiration for that. But if you're talking about learning songs by ear, let's go back to the beginning. If you're learning easier songs, and you like I said, the low E and the A string will definitely be your friend, because when I was first getting going, I didn't have as many sites for tab. Even if I was learning simple songs like stuff like Green Day and all 90s and basically 90s hits, right? So the low E and A are your friend. What is the note where the song kind of feels at rest? You're going to instantly know. Maybe it's the first chord that they've played in the song. Maybe it's the last chord that they play in the song. So first, try to get that under wraps. Is this in G? Is this in A? Where does this song start from and end? The first and last chord are usually a good place to look, but not every song is like that. I would use the low E and A string to kind of try to find the root notes of these chords, and you'll find that a little poking around on the neck will help you out learning the chords really quick, especially if the song has 4 or 5 chords. It should be easy. The next thing that you're going to want to do, in addition to that, is try to learn common progressions. Like, what are the common progressions that you have out there? Are you having something like a 1-4-5? Well, first, what does that even mean, right? They're chord signature, chords in a different key signature. So, for instance, in the key of C, you would have C, C, D, E, F, right? F, and then G would be your 1, 4, and 5. And those chords have different qualities as well. Are they major chords, the more happier chords? Are they minor chords? That's for you to sit down and, again, all this information is already on the internet, but this is for you guys to sit down and find out. A lot of them have like a very common pattern, so that's also important to learn. But learn the most common progressions, right? Like if you're playing something like a Blink-182 song, and the progression goes from the 5th fret on the A string to the 5th fret on the E to the 7th to the 3rd. I mean, that's a super common progression for a lot of like punk rock songs, a lot of rock songs in general. So I think learning different progressions is important. Is the chord, again, I was just saying, is the chord happy chord or a sad chord, right? And if by now you don't know your major and minor chords, that's something to really focus on, especially if you're just getting started, because, the difference of playing, an A major in a spot where the A minor is going to be, it's going to be strikingly off, because that third note of the chord is the most important quality, right? It tells whether it's major or minor. So it feels a certain type of way. When the major chord, it's going to sound happy, and with the minor chord, it's going to sound sad. And you have every other chord on top of that, 7th chords, 9th chords, and so on. Something that's cool that one of the guys from one of the Patreons that I check out regularly, from Levi Clay, I mention him on here a lot, has been using, and I've been using alongside with him, is this Tone Deer thing, a Tone Deer website. The website's actually free. I think the app is like $3 or $4 if you want to use it on your iPhone. But you can start with simple major third, perfect fifth, and octave interval quizzes. So what the heck is an interval, right? An interval would be a place where you measure the distance between two notes. So in a C major chord, the distance between C and E is a major third. If you are able to hear that in your, with your ear, that's very helpful, not only in understanding songs quickly by ear, but you also, will be able to transcribe them more quickly, writing them down. And if you're in a band setting, to like kind of jump on with the band quicker and get in with the band and understand what type of chords you should be playing. One of the things that I liked that I've used over the years is Earmaster. So I used this before I even was aware of any of this Tone Deer stuff. There's so many interval apps out there right now. This was one for the Mac. To be honest, I haven't used it as much recently, but I used to use it a ton when I was first working on ear training. My favorite part about this Earmaster page, and this is, I'll pop it into the chat. This is entirely free. It's on their website. Is that these have all these different song recommendations based on all the different intervals. So if you want to learn what a minor second sounds like, that's the Jaws theme, right? I'm not going to play any of these because I don't want to get copyright striked on YouTube. But these are all the ascending minor second intervals. The Pink Panther theme. You also have descending minor second intervals if you're going from the higher note to the lower note, like Joy to the World, the Jurassic Park theme. And they have a YouTube link so you can hear what those intervals sound like. You also have major seconds. You have minor and major thirds, perfect fourths, every interval that you can imagine. The tritone, the perfect fifth, the minor sixth, the major sixth, minor seventh, major seventh, and then, of course, the octave. Now, if you go all the way down here to pass to the octave, it says create song list, right? So the cool thing about this is if you scroll all the way up, what they want you to do is, if you are familiar with any of these songs, you pick your ascending interval and you pick your descending interval. So like, let's pick Jaws and Fur Elise, Happy Birthday and Yesterday by the Beatles, Seven Nation Army and This Old Man. For the major third, we'll do Kumbaya and Man in the Mirror, Michael Jackson, awesome. Here Comes the Bride for the perfect fourth, and O Come All Ye Faithful for the descending version, Simpsons theme, and Even Flow, awesome. Star Wars theme, of course. Game of Thrones theme, of course, for the descending. The Entertainer and Call Me Maybe. Oh, man, love it. For the major sixth, we'll do the NBC chimes, classic. And we're going to do, let's see. We'll do the music of the night, Phantom of the Opera. For the minor seventh, we'll do the Star Trek theme. And then we'll do Watermelon Man, awesome song. For the major seventh, I mean, let me just look at all these, but nothing to me on this list beats out Take On Me. Pictures at an Exhibition, we're going to do that for the descending. And then finally the octave, so Somewhere Over the Rainbow from Wizard of Oz. And then we'll do the Lonely Goat Herd. I don't know if I know that. But all right, now we've picked all of our intervals, right? Cool thing about this is you create your song list, and now you can just print this page, and you can make a PDF of this. If you want to print it, awesome. Just kind of have it with you all the time. So now you make your own interval song chart. So you know that like anytime you hear like a C to a C sharp, that's a minor second, and that's the Jaws theme. Anytime you hear a major second, so like a C to a D, that's Happy Birthday to You. Or if it's going from D to C, that's Yesterday from the Beatles, right? So I think it's good, even if these are not the songs that you want to use. I think it's really good to find the songs that that you are familiar with that have these sort of intervals in there, and make your own interval song chart. But I feel like this Earmaster site already has a lot of stuff on there, to be able to learn this stuff. So it's very cool. It's a very cool tool. So that's some of my ideas that I had for learning a song by ear. It's not as hard as you think, really. And this is strictly if you want to learn it by ear. If not, if you're like, man, I really want to learn this quick, don't be afraid about using a tab, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. And there's still merit in learning by a tab because you still got to know what chords to play. And if you don't know one of those chords, you still got to look it up and learn how to play that chord. So you're still building upon what you're trying to learn there. I think it's really, really helpful. I always try to do that in all the guitar lessons that I give. I don't like just running up and down scales. Like if we already know the pentatonic shapes and the major shapes, why are we practicing them? Don't do that anymore. If you know the major scale shape and you know the pentatonic shape, there's no reason to run it up and down during your practice schedule. Playing with those scale shapes over a backing track, playing over those scales, playing with those scales over a backing track, and learning a new technique. Adding and taking notes away from those scales while you're trying to practice over a backing track, way more effective than just playing the scale shapes. If you're at any intermediate stage, it's obvious you probably already know major, minor, and major, minor pentatonics, maybe even some modes, right? Don't practice those. I'll tell you right now. Don't practice those over and over again unless you're using them in a musical context, because that's what's going to really make the difference. And I think that's it. We talked about learning songs by ear, talked about all cool stuff coming to Six String Sunday for tomorrow. Go check out the new post for subscribers. It's only $5 a month. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to try to work with other different people in the guitar world to see if I can make it even better for you guys. Also gives you access to me, full-time access, even though even my free guys have full-time access to me in the Discord. And we talked about picking up gear and what to do, where to look for your favorite guitar player's gear, and kind of how to rearrange your pedal board based on what you're looking to do. And I can't answer all those questions or talk about all of them in the 45 minutes I've been talking about. Those are two big topics: learning a song by ear and how to choose gear. But I hope I gave you some helpful tips to kind of go on your way in your next gear purchase or when you're learning your next song. So that's it for me right now. Thank you for everyone who was here. That's super cool. I will be back in your inbox next Sunday. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on social media. I am Chasing Sound everywhere. I'll talk to you soon.